All right. Okay. Let's go ahead and uh, jump in and get started here. So, my name is Kevin, everyone. I'm with Tailwind. I've been working very closely with our team on a new feature. I'm going to talk to y'all a little bit about. Some of you may have it, some of you may not. It's called Tailwind Ads. I'm looking forward to just spending a few minutes talking about it. But before we even get into that, we have David Fairley here from websiteproperties.com. Website Properties is a business that specializes in helping other entrepreneurs, other small businesses sell their business, right? So whenever you get to that point where you have toiled and scaled your company up to a point where you're ready to let it go, that's what David specializes in. I know he's helped tons and tons of companies. I believe the stat I saw was they've done $500 million in transactions from selling different specifically e-commerce companies, right? A lot of e-commerce. It's a big focus, online companies here. And so we're going to talk to him today about how do companies get to that point where they're ready to sell? And then what does that process of selling your online business look like? And what do you need to be thinking about today, right? In terms of setting goals, right? And preparing yourself and making sure you've got all your ducks in a row so that when that time comes, right, it's a smooth, quick, and easy process. So with that, David, I want to kick it over to you. This is going to be a little, it's not going to be just David running through a bunch of slides. It's going to be a little bit of a casual conversation, fireside chat vibe, like I said. And there'll be some discussion. So if anybody has questions as we go through David's portion here, feel free to ask them in chat, and I'll call those out for David, and we'll get those questions addressed as we go through this. But for now, David, I want to kick it over for you. Give us a quick intro. Tell us about yourself. Tell us a little bit about website properties, and then we'll jump into the meat of the topic.
Great. Thanks for the introduction, Kevin. Welcome, everybody. My name is David Fairley. I'm the founder and president of websiteproperties.com. I started this business out of a need, personal need. I'm just like you guys. I started out as an internet entrepreneur back in the mid-90s, got on early, and ended up developing a niche business selling hammocks, which became hammocks.com. After 5 years of being online, I decided I was ready to move on to some new challenges and went to sell the business and ended up working with some brokers that were unaware of internet business fundamentals at the time. So by and large, I ended up having a poor experience with traditional brokers and ended up representing myself, and had all those challenges and pitfalls, but eventually had a successful exit and went on to buy and sell and flip a bunch of other up to 60 different websites over the course of time. That eventually just transitioned into website properties. I had colleagues and friends reaching out to have me represent them. So website properties has evolved over the past 22 years. We were the first in the space, and we've built up a very strong reputation of focus on, as Kevin said, e-commerce, digital commerce, anything online. Essentially, we've been representing, and deals from essentially 100,000 up to 100 million. And so the experience, over time, we've done over, as he said, over $500 million in sales, and a lot of experience, a lot of tales to and wisdom to share with other entrepreneurs like yourself. So I'll get into the screen share and just get my PowerPoint up here so I can follow through it. Our main goal here is just to create some awareness. A lot of entrepreneurs get started with businesses, but don't really think about the final stage of exiting. So it's a good idea to start early, thinking about what your exit strategy is, so you can set goals and build towards that, and also integrate best practices. And so our job as a business broker is to connect you with qualified buyers. We've built up close to 40,000 qualified targeted buyers that are specifically looking for online businesses like the ones that you're building right now. And so we're essentially a facilitator. We're a network of bringing you into conversations. It's up to the business to look, to be solid and strong. So we can get into what those elements are, the fundamentals that buyers are looking for, and what you want to focus on in building your business. So let me just go on here. This is just what I just went over here. Just a couple of things about our operation. Website Properties is a sort of boutique brokerage, so you've got a lot more, I think, white glove treatment. We're not trying to sell thousands of businesses with 100 different brokers. We work as a team, so you get a seamless approach to selling your business from start to finish. There's nothing that you don't have to have had any experience. We're going to walk you through from beginning to end and make sure that it's safe and secure, and you're going to end up with optimizing your exit. So,
Awesome.
Kevin, do you want to chime in there for a second, or?
Oh, no, no, no. I think that's great. I think what I'm excited to hear about is just like, how are e-commerce businesses actually like valued today? That's something, I knew nothing about until I joined Tailwind, a very long time ago. And we got to start talking about, like, hey, what is Tailwind worth? How, what kind of math goes into that? And it's honestly a lot more straightforward than I think I thought. The process of actually trying to evaluate your business, and just, back of the napkin kind of math, try to understand, what would that range kind of look like? I think diving into some of that next would be really exciting for the folks that are
Sure.
going.
So the valuations are fairly standard. It's the market dynamics are pretty efficient. It's like selling real estate. There's comps out there. There's plenty of businesses that have been bought and sold over the years. So people, are going to be looking at those ranges. Typically, for online businesses, the business is valuated on the most recent 12-month net profit, relative to what they've done in previous years. Typically, that range can be for e-commerce anywhere from 2 to 2.5 up to 5x. That's 5 times, like, that's an annualized number. So if you're at, for example, right now, we would be looking at businesses that were the last 12 months of May 2023 to April 2024. That would be the period that buyers are going to focus on, and they're very obsessed with what's happening currently and how it's trending relative to what it did before. So the longer the business has been, the longer the history of the business, generally people are looking for stability and trends. They're investing a lot of money, so they're going to be looking at what's the year-over-year growth. Is the trend up? Is it flat? Is it down? And that's all going to have a bearing on the multiple. So no matter what you do when you're selling a business, that you can't put lipstick on a pig. Everyone's going to look at the numbers. It starts and stops at the numbers. So that's the main thing that you have to look at. As far as product-driven businesses, and the inventory is going to typically be added onto that because there's real costs associated with that. Sometimes that can be in the hundreds of thousands. But typically you're going to get, when you're selling a business, you're going to get a valuation multiple based on the profits, plus the inventory is added to that. So that's sort of where you can get a good range. Right now, the multiples that it depends on the macro environment as well, what people are willing to pay. But when there's a lot of excitement and optimism in the market, the people tend to be willing to pay more, higher multiple. But it really comes down to the how strong the fundamentals are and the trend. Typically, if the trend is your friend, if it's growing every year, you're going to have less resistance, less pushback on the valuation. So those are the other aspects of building out your valuation is going to be based on the niche, your IP, what kind of IP you have, trademarks, protecting your IP is super important. Having a somewhat of a moat around the business so that you have a defense against other competitors coming in is important. And then, of course, the branding of your business is, you got to be on point. I think most people are looking at what makes your business unique, and so you want to focus on standing out in the crowd in a competitive space in that regard.
That makes
Um,
sense. Yeah. And okay, this slide is perfect, is where I was going to go next. And real quick, I just want to invite anyone to ask questions in the chat for David if you have any, just as we go. But as a small business and someone who has an e-commerce store, right? Okay, that 2.5 to 5.0 and up multiplier, that's a big range, right? But even if I'm a smaller business and I'm looking at the lower end of that multiple, like what sort of levers do I have, right, to like this slide says, right, to get the most out of that multiple and the most out of my valuation?
Right. Well, as this slide is sort of, there's a number of things. First of all, you want to make sure the basics are there. A lot of times entrepreneurs come and they set up, they're running multiple sites or multiple businesses under one roof, and they may only want to sell one of their niches off, and so it becomes complicated and convoluted if you don't have separate financials, banking, set up. So it's an account. So the recommendation that we tell people is, when you're planning for an exit, just make sure that the business that you're selling is clean and clear. It's separated, it's got separate financials, it's got separate banking statements, etc. Because when you're going through due diligence, you're going to have to provide that. And if you can't provide that in a clear, transparent method, you're going to have problems closing. So that's the first thing. It's obvious, like as it says here, it's generally we're looking at selling these businesses as an asset sale. So you're not like, they're not going to be buying your LLC. They don't want any of your obligations. They're just really looking to buy your website and your assets, your customer base, your product,
Mhm.
product offering, your vendor supply contracts, etc., like that. So um, those are, that's a key part, is just keep clean financials are really the key.
Mhm.
Most people should be using, QuickBooks or whatever. That's what people are going to be looking at. They're going to be comparing your QuickBooks to your bank statements and making sure that everything you're providing is as is. It's this particular work required means that you're looking at creating as much automation as possible, so that you're not the business. You want to be able to hand this thing off in a turnkey manner, where you've got, like, for example, in this case, you've got a virtual assistant handling some basic mundane tasks during the day that you're having them handle for you. That's an easy, an easy asset to hand over to someone else. Like, most people that are buying businesses aren't going to be experts, and so if you have more automation, you have contracted out fulfillment and customer service, that's going to make it a lot easier for the new owner to transition and manage that. So automation is super important, and that can go for marketing and outsourcing your SEO and whatnot. And that's where I think Tailwind is quite interesting, because a lot of entrepreneurs struggle with trying to do the marketing and understand the data and optimizing that. So we see a benefit in utilizing software solutions such as Tailwinds, because it just automates a process that most people just have no time or no energy or expertise in developing. And you can get killed, of course, in online marketing if you're not in control of your spend and you're not optimizing that. So these automating your business is really key. Making sure that your business is not based on your efforts and your expertise it makes it a lot easier to sell as well. Kevin, did you want to interject at all, or any questions coming in?
I just, yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense, right? You talked about being in control of your spend, right? Like having really automated your marketing, uh, really being on top of your owned channels like email and growing those out, right? Like if you've got a big email base, that's consistent traffic, right? That's an audience you can tap into no matter what Google does to you, right? We've seen Google making so many changes here recently. That's just, especially with the advent of AI, Google's trying to figure out like, how do we want to rank AI content versus content we believe is not AI, right? There's all kinds of different things that they're trying to figure out right now. And the world of search is shifting pretty rapidly. Like Microsoft's Bing is becoming a real player in search for the first time in, ever, really. They're really making waves there a little bit. So when I think about things that small business marketers tend to struggle with, it's really having a plan for how do they build consistent traffic, how do they grow that, how do they build an effective email list. But similarly, how do you get out of Google's grasp, right? How do you build like building a solving for that effective ad strategy, right? That is repeatable month after month. You put some amount of money in, you're going to get some amount of traffic and sales out. That can take months to figure out, right? A lot of experimentation is required, but I think that's something I see a gap in with small businesses quite a bit, is really struggling to build and grow and scale that paid ad strategy or that email marketing strategy. And when you're looking to sell your business, right, um, those are really valuable assets, I think, for the acquirer, right? I mean, would you say
Yeah, no, I mean, one of the assets, one of the strong fundamentals of a business is actually how large your subscription base is, or how many email customers you have, and because that's that, like you said, once you've got an email to a customer, you want to be able to continue working that and building on that, so you're not reliant constantly on Google or Amazon or whatever platform you're on. You have to build up the connection to the customer, and that's also what buyers are going to be looking at, is like, well, what kind of recurring revenues are there, how many repeat orders are there? So nurturing and developing your customer is really huge, and a lot of times it's just common sense stuff, like just good customer service can go a long way. It's incredible to me, even that now, that how little people pay attention to that and how big of difference that can make. So in your business, it's a communication with your client base and building up that list, because that's very valuable. Every email you acquire is another, is going to be valuable. Like my company, it's very targeted, but I built up close to 40,000 subscribers that I can email at any time about a business for sale. So it's just like, once you've got that, it allows you to continue to sell and grow the business. So very, very important to focus on growing your direct contact with your clientele, and creating that stickiness.
Yep. Awesome.
Some other points on here about the single points of failure, like basically what that means, that you don't have one customer that's more than 20% of your sales. You want to diversify. You don't just have necessarily one product. You try and develop a small, you don't need to go to hundreds, because there's buyers that you don't want thousands of SKUs. They're more interested in working with SKU 5 to 20. Having one product to sell isn't bad if it's great, but you do want to expand your offering in that regard. It's also suppliers. You don't, if you have multiple supplier sources, it just lends itself to not having a disruption in your supply chain. And then the final thing is, which again is emphasizing I think the advantage of using Tailwinds and a software like this, which is channel development. Don't just have one stream of revenue. Like a lot of Amazon sellers are reliant just on sales coming through Amazon, and like you say, they change their terms of service or they increase their ad spend, and suddenly your whole business model is wrecked. And so developing direct channel, social media, and direct advertising strategies that are effective, really, really important. And having those in place and working is a lot, so that a buyer doesn't have to figure it out themselves, is really going to be something positive in terms of what they're going to be looking for.
Yeah, I see that a lot with very small businesses. They're just getting started. Platforms like Amazon, Etsy, Teachers Pay Teachers really provide some incredible shortcuts for getting going. And I've seen businesses scale up to a couple $100,000 And then maybe they're looking to exit, but they're trapped in Etsy's ecosystem, or maybe they're not looking to
Yeah.
exit, but they're just using Etsy ads, and the way Etsy ads works changes, or the way the Etsy algorithm works for the organic traffic that they're sending stores changes, and everything can just plummet. So very similar problem if you're just reliant on organic, right? Social, organic, Google. Uh, those algorithms can change, and I'm sure a lot of people have on this call now, and watching this recording, have experienced those winds just shifting the other direction on them
Oh, yeah.
completely. So yeah,
I've seen a lot of rug pulls over the last 20 years, just like from, mostly with platforms changing their algos, and just people that were reliant on those just, ended up being in damage control very quickly. It's brutal. It can be brutal. So definitely channel development is really important. And again, buyers like to see that. They want to, they're aware of those risks. And so the more you can develop different channels, revenue channels and sales channels, the better. We can just blow through this slide pretty quick. It's really about inventory.
yep.
Again, it's about keeping keep creating a business. It's like hands off that can be operated from anywhere. E-commerce is great if you've got that set up with a 3PL, or of course fulfillment by Amazon is very popular. But the main thing for buyers is they don't have to they don't have to get a warehouse, they don't have to touch the product, and so those businesses typically have more favor with buyers. They're more attractive. It doesn't mean that you can't, have more efficiencies if you're set up. It really depends on the business, but most people prefer to not be doing the inventory themselves, and warehousing and having staff and whatnot to pick and pack. It's not what buyers are really looking to, get themselves into. It's a lot more to work, a lot more work for them.
That makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah, this slide is basically like what if you've looking at your SOPs, and just making sure that you have everything documented, how to operate your business, and so that you can share that with your standard operating procedures with the new buyer. I mean, having that in place just makes it, again, more appealing. And so, sorry, I got off my screen here. What happened?
We can still just see your presentation. So
Yeah, I'm just trying to, where I am here. Oops. Gosh, I'm trying to find where's my slide page? Happened. Uh,
if
can you?
I can see your presentation. If you're full screen on Mac, it might be another desktop, so you'd have to like swipe over to the other ones.
I got lost in my own presentation there.
There
Okay.
we go.
Okay. So yeah, this is just, I don't want to, I want to be respectful to our time and whatnot. So just
Good. Good.
going through the process of selling your business. I mean, anyone it wants to get a free valuation can, come over to our link on this page. We will run through your financials and look at all your fundamentals, and can give you a pretty quick snapshot on what that looks like. And basically, most sellers are sort of have to ask the question of, when do they want to sell? Is now the time, or when, down the road? And it often has a lot to do with the actual level of how valuable the business is becoming, or what their exit sort of goal is. The main thing that we find with people just on when to sell their business is, a lot of times they get caught up in trying to time it. I think mostly it's just, do you have the energy and passion to keep growing the business, and are you excited about it? I think the biggest concern for anyone, any entrepreneur, is when you start losing energy and focus, eventually that business is going to start deteriorating. So it's better to sort of like get it to a certain point, or recognize where you are at personally and emotionally, and make a decision based on that. And most of the time when people come to sell a business, their initial instinct is usually the best one to go with. So I recommend, like trusting your gut, and not trying to time the market, because a lot of times people will change their mind and try and time the market, and the
Mhm.
market changes and people get scared and valuations go down. It's just like any other, any other cyclical business that you're going to be in. It follows the same macro sort of patterns as well. Um, yeah, so it's ultimately well, let me get to the documentation. As I said, we're going to need detailed financials, access to the portals that you're working on, so we can look at your traffic and customer data,
Mhm.
and that's how we're going to appraise a business. And once, moving forward into, if the seller is ready to go forward, we are going to put together a detailed prospectus, which is going to take all their the information from their niche, the customer data, the business details, the financials, and we put together a 10 to 15 page prospectus.
Mhm.
Once that's signed off by the seller, that would go up on our website and then sent out to our email list of subscribers, and then out into about 12 different portals. So we're pretty heavy with our marketing. And make sure that the listings are going to get full exposure. And then, of course, from vetting buyers and getting them on calls and going through the final process. Again, everything is secure and safely guided by our brokers, and so that it's not like anyone needs to have any sort of personal experience with that.
And David, Mike's got I think a great segue question here for you, and he's asking, how far in advance should should an online business owner start planning and preparing for the sale of their company, right? There's some stuff that it really doesn't need to be done until you're ready to do it, but what should you be thinking about and kind of planning about in advance, right? And
You
how
know,
long?
I think first and foremost, the main thing is just to be like from the get-go, just keep your numbers clean. Like just set it up and have monthly P&Ls. Like when you're presenting a business, you're not presenting it like a tax, like you would with your taxes, which is the whole idea of taxes, to mitigate your expenses
Mhm.
with a cap. You're going to be presenting your business as a P&L and a cash flow basis. So you want to make sure that you're mitigating, any unnecessary expenses when you're getting prepared. But ultimately, it's just like set your goal. You typically you need to have a minimum of 2 years before people are really seriously looking at a business to sell. Otherwise, there's going to be concerns of whether it's you're trying to pump and dump. But ultimately, you need to have a history that is showing the trends, and just keep good records, and then don't take action on the areas that you feel are going to grow the business. Don't like decide to go to market and say, well, if I added an affiliate program, if I marketed this, if I had only paid for Tailwind service to grow my revenues and market, that's what you can do. It's basically run the business like you're not going to sell it, and try and develop these multiple channels, and be create as much automation and efficiencies as possible. And using these Tailwinds type of software is really going to benefit you in the long run, because it's going to be in place for the new owner, and obviously allow them to sort of scale if they want to throw more capital at growing the advertising spend. So
Yeah, that makes sense, right? And like more automation means less human capital, less complexity in the sale ultimately as well, right? It's going to be
yeah,
easier for you
the
to build.
less friction, the better. The easier it is to just have a nice turnkey business can hand over.
Yeah,
Everything's fairly automated. That those businesses sell pretty quickly, and ultimately they get more money.
yeah.
The people are willing to pay more for that.
Awesome. All right. What else should folks know here about you know, closing out their business right when it's time, what they need to prepare for?
Well, again, like once we've taken someone to the market, once you've got interest, they're going to have to be able to have their their P&Ls and their bank statements and their
Yeah.
tax returns and whatnot ready to go. So that, having a data room or a place where you can keep all your documents
Mhm.
as you go is important. And once you decide to go to market, it's not something that necessarily, businesses can sell very quickly, but you've got to be prepared to continue operating your business while it's on the market. And again, the focus is on growing the business, because buyers are going to be hyper focused on what you're doing currently. They're always, looking for that gotcha. And the biggest question is, why are you selling it? So I think most entrepreneurs are selling because they like building, they're not necessarily like to operate, or they got to a point where they want to change and they're done, and they're just, they want to explore other opportunities. So that's the tip, that's probably the most common reason to sell. And I think that's really, anyone that's listening to this has just got to determine, like, what, why am I selling this? The reason to sell it shouldn't be because I'm afraid the business is going to cave. It's just because you want to
Yeah.
move on. You don't want to, like, there are sellers out there that try and use brokers as shells, but then it always comes out in the numbers. So just, treat your baby with respect and nurture it, and then, pass it on to someone that's going to be able to grow it and take what you've done. But, you want to have the foundational elements in place, like we've discussed.
Awesome. Yeah, I spent a couple of days, the last couple of days leading up to this webinar, checking out website properties. You all have a ton of great resources for people who are just starting to think about this. So, there, like I said, a recording of this will be going out, so you'll be able to go back and reference this presentation and some of the things David's been talking about. But you can go to website properties after this webinar, and there's calculators on there, right? It'll walk you through how to calculate the valuation of your business. There's a lot of really, really great resources and folks to get in contact with on your team, just to start the conversation, right? I know a lot of people reach out to you, probably they're not ready to sell right away, but they're just trying to learn more. They're trying to figure out how to navigate that path. And I know you've got a whole team of folks who are ready to start working with people who are at that stage, even if they're not trying to get everything closed out in the next,
Yeah.
60
You,
days, right?
you don't have to be ready to sell immediately. You just got to be thinking about it when, if you're thinking about it anytime in the next 6 to 12 months, then we're happy to have that conversation, to give you the guidance, let you know. And it's also good to have, sometimes it's good to have these opportunities, um, in our pipeline, because even if you're not going to market, we're always in conversations with buyers. And, if it's like, for example, the person that was in the education niche there, that knowing that person has a business like that, and that they may not be quite ready, but depends on if someone is hungry enough that, if that opportunity is available, that we can share that with potential buyers. So,
Yeah.
that's something that we, have ongoing, but we don't put any pressure on. We want people to get clear, and to, when they make a decision to sell, that they're on board, and then, they're going to move forward in complete transparency, really, because it's just a real, you have to be open and transparent, and want to find someone that's going to take your business that you've built with care to the next level. That's the whole point of that.
And I meant, if there are any other questions, folks, definitely ask them. We're about to shift over to talk about a tailwind feature here, but real quick, there was a question that came into the Q&A instead of the chat. It was my fault. I was just watching the chat and I missed the Q&A question that came through. But someone had asked, have you ever seen anyone sell a business that was purely Etsy based? I've definitely seen some Etsy stores that have brought in some big, 7-figure numbers. And I'm talking like revenue through Etsy. And yeah, maybe they've got a website, but that's a single percentage, portion of their business. And they're really all in. And maybe it's not Etsy, maybe it's just these third-party platforms in general.
Yeah.
Is that a hurdle in your experience? Is that a big negative, or
Um,
possible?
Well, Etsy's an interesting case, because, they all have terms of service, right? Like Amazon has, in their terms of service, says you can't transfer accounts, but, it's done all the time because people sell their Amazon businesses. There is a process of doing that, making sure that it's seamless.
Yeah.
With Etsy, it's generally, when you're taking over an account, you have to change the contact information and the banking, and Etsy is, I don't know if it's changed, but it has been problematic in the past to, to for Etsy sellers with stores to actually sell to another buyer without having them to set up a new account, which defeats the purpose, right? Because you've got all these, clients and customers and history that goes along with that. But in most cases, it's the transferability of these accounts is pretty easily done. And, even though they have it on paper, terms of service, it's not allowed. It's done regularly. They know about it, and so it's possible. Regarding Etsy, I don't know at this point whether they have changed or whether it's easy enough to just switch out accounts without losing your account, which is always the risk.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And I think it goes back to the point you made earlier, right? About just really diversifying yourself, making yourself independent from a lot of these platforms, whether that's, Google organic traffic, organic Facebook traffic, or, the Etsy ecosystem. The more tied in you are, the riskier you are, right? But if you can build out really, really scalable, ad strategies, email marketing strategies, organic social strategies that work, right? And have been proven to grow your business, that's really attractive, right? So makes a
Absolutely.
ton of sense. We will continue, David, to take any questions from the chat as they come through. I'm going to hop over and talk about Tailwind ads for just a few minutes. And then we'll have, additional Q&A time at the very end of this. But David, any final words before we make this quick transition?
No, just like the main thing is that I think that what grows great businesses and the businesses that sell quickest are the ones where people are passionate, they love what they're doing, and there's something that they're serving a purpose, they're serving a niche, they're and it's I think that's a great business to buy. That's going to be a great business to sell. Just if you've got the energy and you got the passion, then you can grow a business. You can have a low time preference and build a great business over, 2 to 5 years. And but just keep in mind of, build a business that you'd like to buy yourself. Think about what would I like to see in a business, and execute on that rather than just talk about it. So
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, and I know the people showing up here today, right? They already got that mindset. They are passionate. They are already thinking ahead, planning ahead. They're trying to figure out, how do I scale this? How do I grow more? How do I do more? How do I get to that point? So anyone here, I know they're already on the right track. So that's great.
yeah, I mean, and ultimately build a business that works for you, not that you're working for the business.
Yeah,
The whole idea of being an entrepreneur is to create more freedom. Like that's, you
yeah,
don't want to get, like, what we often do is we build something that becomes our enslaver. And so you really want to build a business that is, that gives you more freedom, more abundance and more freedom. Those are what other investors are looking at. The smart money's looking for businesses that are well run, that isn't going to bury them in terms of time commitment and certainly, money. So something else to consider.
Yeah. That makes a ton of sense. You got to be excited about it. You got to be passionate about it, because you're going to run into a lot of hurdles, right? You're going to have Google's algorithm change on you. You're going to have Facebook's algorithm change on you. You're going to have Etsy change on you. All that's going to happen. So, with that, David, thank you. David's going to stick around. We're going to chat for a few more minutes here. And what I want to shift to is actually talking about a new Tailwind feature, which some of you may have, some of you may not. It's something we've been slowly rolling out to more and more folks, and that's called Tailwind ads. So I'll take over the screen share here real quick. I already introduced myself. The slides just kind of placeholder here for everything we do. But Tailwind ads was something we started last summer. That's something we've gotten feature requests for a very, very long time, because we've always played around in the organic social space. And when we started building Tailwind ads, we really wanted to build it specifically for e-commerce businesses, right? And that allows us just to really kind of hone in and narrow what kind of problems are we solving for? What kind of customer are we really building ads for? And that allows us to build something that's very tailored, very effective for that specific audience. And I want to tell you a little bit about someone who's currently using Tailwind ads. They started ads with us last summer, and it was an e-commerce store called Vermilion Jewelry here. If I can, whoops, get my slides to change. Vermilion Jewelry. So she's Australian based. She makes this handmade jewelry, really beautiful stuff. She started out, just selling stuff locally, and then a year and a half or two into the pandemic, she finally decided to start an online business. And so, she kind of knew her core audience, which was great. She had a product which was great that she already sort of proven locally that people were interested in. But at the time when I first started talking to her last summer, she had about 10 people per day visiting her website. Not very much, of course, right? Not enough to sell a business, right? Just a trickle of folks, and it was all organic. There were a couple of things she was ranking for, and she had like 100 followers on Facebook, 1,000 on Instagram, a couple thousand monthly viewers on Pinterest. So that was bringing in that just kind of trickle of a few people per day alongside Google. And she was interested in our beta because what she was really trying to solve for is like, how do I start growing this? How do I start getting more people to my website consistently so that they're signing up to my newsletter so that I'm growing that? How do I figure out how to purchase traffic in a way that's like financially viable for me to scale, like we were talking about earlier. That's not something you can figure out overnight. It is something that can click into place sometimes, especially if you do have a business that you've been working on and you've captured a lot of learnings and data on over time, like she had. So when I talked to her, she was super stoked about trying it out. When she first came into Tailwind Ads, I want to just show you how easy it is to get started. You put in your URL, it's kind of the landing page when you're checking it out for the first time. And as soon as you drop in your URL, we pull in a list of products from your website. We automatically generate all the copy you need for your ads, leveraging AI. We're building these campaigns again. They're like tailored to e-commerce. These are Instagram and Facebook, like meta campaigns. And we're generating these ads. And she started out, right, with just, traffic ads, right? Really basic ads. They tend to be cheaper, right? In terms of how much you're paying per result, per link click. And real quickly, she saw an 8x increase in traffic, right? So she went from getting 10 visitors today to nearly 100 people per day. And that, as a small business is really, really valuable for a lot of reasons, right? You start learning, like, do my product pages actually work? Are they well optimized? Like if people land on my product page, are they actually adding things to their cart? Or are people getting stuck and are they bouncing? Or is my website set up, effectively so that if someone comes in and checks out a product, are they able to very easily kind of explore the store and discover more things that are relative to them and maybe check out with a shopping cart with multiple items in it, right? You'll start to understand like what kind of ads are resonating with folks. Is it certain types of creative? Should there be text on the image? Should there be video instead of a standard image? That kind of stuff can be incredibly valuable as a new business who's just in that learning stage, right? Maybe you're selling 4 or 5, 2,000, 1,000, maybe $0 a month. We might have a couple people on here really getting started and just really looking, for where their business is going to be at in a couple years ago, and how they're going to sell it, right? So it was incredibly valuable for her. It took her 20 minutes to go from putting in her URL to having these 5 ads live. It was super simple. It was super straightforward. And the first attempt didn't work. We changed out a couple of ads, tried some new ones. In the back end, Tailwind is doing some intelligent optimizations here on a daily basis to try and ensure that your budget is allocated to the best performing ads. And after a little bit of trial and error here, what we found was that these right here, this is a winner product. This is her most optimal ad, and we started scaling that, right? We started putting more budget behind that. We started increasing her budget. She ended up tripling her budget over time. She saw, an incredible ROI on this product, right? It ended up being kind of a keystone product. And so she was able to now take this and, highlight it in other ways in her marketing, right? Starting leveraging this specific piece of jewelry and social and email, right? It wasn't just valuable because this ad was bringing her a lot of traffic, and some of that traffic was turning into add to carts and sales and newsletter signups and social engagements and social followers. I think that's another thing that a lot of new e-commerce stores, when they're first testing out different marketing strategies, new marketing channels, if they don't see a sale come from it really quickly, they might write it off. But you also want to look at like, well, okay, is this also providing engagement for my social media account? Is it growing my follower base? Is it leading to new newsletter signups? Like we talked about earlier, those kind of owned marketing channels like that, those are really valuable to people. Like when people are looking to acquire you, they see that, they see these, large audiences that you've cultivated on email and social, right? Like that's the term used, like a captive audience, right? Like they're bought in, uh they've decided that they want to be hearing from you day in and day out, right? And that's gonna be like a consistent customer base that they can tap into. Again, they're not just going to be reliant on the whims of Google and Facebook. So, real quickly, she started seeing strong ROI on multiple fronts, right? Social growth, newsletter growth, and also, right, add to cart sales, things like that. And that happened because of, Facebook is doing its own optimization, trying to find the best audience to show these ads, but Tailwind is also doing its own optimizations as well. And it's really, really straightforward. We're looking at ROAS here, return on ad spend, but if you have 4 or 5 ads live, we're looking at like, how much return are you getting on ad 1 versus 2 versus 3 versus 4, right? And if we see that the first ad is doing really, really well, we're going to take some of the money that you had budgeted for this campaign and maybe spend a little bit less on these other ads and reallocate it over to this ad that's performing really well. And we're going to check in every day and keep making that adjustment. And day after day, we keep getting the same signal. And similarly, if we're seeing that like this product is doing really well, but it's doing really well on Instagram and maybe Instagram story placements, then we're going to stop showing placements of it on Facebook. We're going to stop spending money on the Facebook audience and shift all your, the bulk of your budget more towards this product, right? And to these specific placements where we're seeing a strong return. And then, that is what ultimately over time, these kinds of optimizations, and again, she'll pause these ads that aren't doing as well, bring in another, Tailwind will see if that one can do better. These optimizations over time eventually allowed Vermilion Jewelry to reach a 4x increase in her total sales, right? Starting from her baseline in the summer. It took some time, right? This graph, it is like, kind of designed, right? In a way, we had to take out the numbers, but these dips were kind of what she saw. She started out, saw a little bit of dip, it went up, saw a little bit of a dip, it went up, but this is kind of normal, right? Especially, with all aspects of business, you'll see ups and downs like this. It's not unusual with ads to see some variability over time, but kind of in the long run, what she was seeing was just a consistent upward growth, right? And part of that just was, taking a few months to kind of figure out like, hey, what is the right ad? What is the right creative? What is the right way to position my brand online with online ads to get that traffic in here, but not just any traffic, right? But the kind of qualified traffic that will lead to this kind of growth in sales. So Tailwind ads, like I said, it was something we started last summer. It was something a lot of people had asked us to build, right? And so we started talking to our small e-commerce customers and we started asking them about like, what are your pain points? What's challenging about ads? And all those takeaways, we really boiled that down into 3 big goals that we had when creating Tailwind ads. And the first thing we were hearing was like, Facebook ads is crazy. Like their platform is so hard to understand. If something isn't working, I'm not sure what to do next. It's complicated. It's very clear to me that Facebook is building this platform for customers that are spending millions of dollars per month and not for me, a small business, right? So we wanted to make executing your paid social strategy just as straightforward as your organic social strategy. So creating an ad, getting ROI from that ad should be as easy as, just posting pins to Pinterest or posting stories to Instagram. We also wanted to make it super easy for you to see what's working and kind of make those improvements automatic. So I talked about how Tailwind Ads will do this optimization for you, right? It's going to reallocate your budget automatically. That way you minimize your amount of wastage. And then we wanted to make it super easy and just reduce the risk and amount of time associated with it. So to that end, like I said, it took Vermilion Jewelry about 20 minutes to go from having absolutely, never created an ad before to having 5 ads running across Facebook and Instagram. And the other thing we do is we start our ads as low as $2 per day. And the type of campaign we build for an e-commerce store changes depending on the budget that they have available to allocate towards that campaign. So if you're new, you're just getting started, you just want to start out at $2, $3, $4 a day, that's totally fine. That gives you time, right? Just spending maybe $100, $200 a month to start learning, like I said earlier, to start understanding what types of ads are providing the return I need to reinvest into my business, right? What types of ads are driving the kind of social growth and newsletter growth that I need to really bulk up these kind of owned marketing channels that potential acquirers in the future are going to be looking for and that they're going to highly value. So really, we're trying to make a simple, easy to use product that helps people scale their business, right? So basically not the Facebook ads manager. There's a lot going on here. This is the ad account, screenshots of a few different pages from the Tailwind ad account. I pity the person who used to have to deal with this every day and get in here and try to figure out how do I optimize this? What do I do to make this better? Which ad should I pause or what takeaways are valuable from this mess of numbers and graphs and charts? So this is what we were trying to avoid. So just real quickly, I'll show you a very short kind of walkthrough here of getting started with Tailwind Ads for the first time. So this was our CEO just recording a little demo of a fashion store here. Put in the URL. We see all the different products here available. You can select some products that you want to generate ads for. And then we're going to ask you, a couple of questions about your business, right? So what's your website? What are you selling? Some things like that. In the background here, we're already generating ads. This all gets pre-filled out by our AI. We've scanned your business, try and understand what makes your brand or company unique. So you can just come in here and edit this, right? And telling us this just helps the AI system, kind of gives it a lens, gives it some context for whenever it's generating that ad copy for your business. So once you connect your ad account, you just tell us about your audience here, like what age range are you targeting? Are you targeting men or women or both? And then what kind of countries and what sort of interests are you looking for? And then once you're done with this, you'll just tell us what your daily budget is. Are you looking to spend $1,000 a month here? Are you looking to spend $100 a month, right? And we'll support people at any stage of their online advertising journey here. And then once you've set your budget, you'll be able to see all the different ads that you've created. You can click in, you can view all the copy that, again, is AI generated, right? Review that, edit it. I always encourage people to, always tweak whatever, content AI wrote for you. Hopefully the AI got you 95% of the way there, and you're just massaging it a little bit and saving you a ton of time along the way. But always, polish it up a little bit. And that's how easy it is. On the background, we've built your campaign or multiple campaigns, right? We've set different objectives for those campaigns, again, depending on your budgets and things like that. And they are all optimized for e-commerce. So really, really easy to get started in just a few minutes. If anyone here has ever tried to set up Facebook ads before, that's pretty darn cool. and it took you a lot longer, I'm sure, the first time just to get set up. So really, like I said, we talked to our audience about what were their struggles when trying to figure out an effective ad strategy that they could scale. And really what we leaned into was like, hey, all right, we're going to start with just e-commerce. We're going to make our ads product just for them, right? Just for your e-commerce business. So We'll write all that ad copy for you, right? We leverage your brand's tone and voice that we infer from an analysis of your website. We'll set up personalized audience targeting automatically for you, which you can go in again and just kind of edit the way you saw our CEO doing in that video. We'll build those campaigns with multiple placement types and objectives tailored to you, right? And then we're going to optimize your budget. We're going to make sure that there's minimal wastage, and we're going to do this 24/7, 365 every single day. And ultimately, right, over time, as we get these ads more optimized, as we learn, we're going to be driving better and better qualified traffic, right, with more sales to your store. So you can build and grow this stable, repeatable, kind of marketing channel for your business, that alongside other things like organic, social, and effective SEM strategies and effective email marketing strategies, if you've got this figured out, if you've solved this problem for your businesses, that's really attractive to potential acquirers, right? Because those are problems they don't have to figure out and solve once they acquire a business, right? You could scale a business and grow a business and still have not figured out some of these problems, right? I know you've sold some businesses where or you've talked to people wanting to sell their businesses. Maybe the revenue number is there, but certain aspects of their business, of their marketing strategy are really still just a little bit of a mess, right? It hasn't really been solved yet. So at the end of the day, right, we're trying to meet you where you're at ultimately with your business, right? Whether you're looking to spend, again, $100 a month, $1,000 a month or more. And today we support the Meta channels, Facebook and Instagram, and also Google search. It's $2 a day to start. And if you don't have access to Tailwind ads yet, my email has been in the bottom right corner. Shoot me an email if you want access to Tailwind ads, if you want it turned on for your account. Happy to do that. I'm also happy to grab 30 minutes with you, kind of do a guided setup, chat about your experience with ads, chat about your business, help you get set up and going, and just consult and provide any advice on that I can on moving forward and just looking to make you successful. The last thing I want to shout out here is that URL that David shared earlier. I'll paste it one more time in chat. Bookmark it. You might not be looking to sell your business next week, right? But you should be looking to sell your business at some point in the future. And David and his team have put together a lot of self-serve great resources on their website, but they also have people who are, happy to pick up the phone, answer an email, chat with you, and help you figure out where you're at in your journey and what you should be doing next. And if what you should be doing next is selling your business, right? They're the team to help you do it, and they'll walk you through that process. They'll make it super easy. So again, if you'd like to meet with me to talk about Tailwind ads, shoot me an email. We don't even have to meet. If you just want it turned on and you want to explore it by yourself first, more than welcome. Just shoot me a message. And David's email here, dfairley@websiteproperties.com. Put that in your contacts list along with bookmarking that URL, right? Get in touch with David. Even if it's 18, 24 months from now, he'll still be around. His business has been around for decades now. I know he'll be looking forward to help y'all out. So any questions in the chat? We're at the top of the hour, but happy to take any questions from anyone who's still hanging around. And we'll wait for just a minute. If there are no questions, the recording will be available to everyone about 24 hours from now. We'll be sending that out.